I have been an avid photographer since I was 12 or 13. In 1973, 1974 period, when I finally joined the fire department on Long Island, the Massapequa Fire Department, I spent a very large amount of time inside New York City photographing fires throughout the 5 boroughs of New York. The title of the book is They Saved New York. The challenges that FDNY faces are unlike any other city fire department in the United States faces. One end of the Bronx to the other end of Staten Island is at least an hour. They've got everything from high-rise fires, tenement apartment house fires, store fires, factory fires, hazardous materials incidents, and it's just a very well-run fire department that I've been in love with for over 40 years. The war years in New York City, from the mid to late 1960s on up through the early 1980s, was a period of unbelievable fire activity. And I want people to pick up the book and get an appreciation for these unbelievable firefighters that went through this, that saw so much. They are truly the men that saved New York City from burning down block by block. It's an honor to capture their stories today, and what those firefighters saw back then will never be seen again.
Easier said than done.
When somebody sits for a portrait session, they're giving you a gift. Not only are you photographing them, but they're allowing you to photograph them, and they give you, by their expressions and their demeanor, they allow you to capture part of their soul into either a piece of film or a digital image, and that is there's a give and take. And if the subject doesn't feel comfortable with the photographer, you don't get much of a photo session. We want to not so much focus on the firefighting and big fires or notable fires. We really want to spotlight individual firefighters. And that's where we're so different, because we are going to have a very large number of firefighters telling their story through the photographs that I take and the words that Dan has been capturing and writing.
Well, the funny thing is, being a fireman, I've probably heard all the stories before. Grew up in a firehouse with all senior guys, and they were actually mentors to me. They directed me through my life.
I met Dan through the internet. He is a retired New York City firefighter. He has an extremely compelling story of 9/11 and how him and his wife basically both thought each other had died in the ensuing collapse on 9/11, and both were very luckily spared and lived. He brings instant credibility to the project because he is a retired New York City firefighter.
You better start thinking Plan B.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. We called it about 10 feet. Like, Frank, you got to get that line up here quick, bro. And then we're coming, and then boom, everything went orange.
Wow.
The can-do attitude.
Yeah.
Everybody in that company's got the can-do attitude.
Yeah. We started off with the war years. Again, these are guys that go back to 1968, that, again, their stories are invaluable. We're talking to firefighters who have been at one of the worst fires besides 9/11 was the telephone company fire. We talk about Black Sunday, and we've also learned lessons learned from these disastrous and treacherous fires.
The rope that was used that day, this is the actual rope that was used that day. That's a piece of the rope from Black Sunday. And this is the ropes that they took away from us.
And that's the ropes that would have saved everybody.
Yep.
That's pretty moving. Thank you.
This is ink of, that's Joey's helmet and my helmet, and a rope in between. He placed his life, my life before his own that day, and John 15:13, a greater love have one than lay down his life for his friends, Joey did that for me that day,
Thank you for coming in. I know it's pretty moving for all of us. You can't understand the emotion of shooting somebody like that and taking their picture and allowing them to photograph them, to tell that story to other firefighters and to be part of the book. So that was certainly one of the most emotional moments that we photographed, and one of the most emotional stories in the history of the New York City Fire Department.
It's just,
In line back in there, says, I was on the wrong end of that mad face many times. He was only lieutenant there, so
That's definitely him though, right?
that's definitely him, and I could tell you, my sister has this helmet in her house.
It was November, it was a Sunday afternoon, and the interior started collapsing and he pushed the whole crew out.
When I broke the steering column on his 1955 Buick when I was in first grade, I saw that same face.
But this is, we're talking 30 years ago.
I've been dreaming about this for months now.
In the Firehouse, probably the most warm and inviting place where we firefighters gather is the kitchen table.
Second line!
And when we gather around the kitchen table, that's the place where most of our knowledge is passed on.
It's a great pose.
And we pass that knowledge on in stories. We tell stories of close calls. We tell stories of fires that had tragic endings. I really want my book to reflect some of the discussions that will go on in the kitchen table, discussions among young and old firefighters.
Each guy is giving, has a passion for the fire department, wants to make things better for the people. So to capture their stories of what they've done and how they've changed the fire department, made the fire department better, is magnificent.
To be able to connect with these wonderful firefighters, both men and women that serve the New York City Fire Department, and using photography to capture a moment in their lives and display it and to show it to other people has been a real honor. It's truly been the most outstanding photographic project I've ever done in my 65 years of life.